We're going to enter the rogue zone to talk about some card art. Let's go. There is a place unseen by Metro players and forgotten by old school players. This place that is hidden between what is playable and what is not. A place lost. Here, in this place, there is a middle ground between fun and competitive. This place we now enter, it begins at the pit of a YuGiOh player's ability to read and at the summit of their ability to net deck. This is a place that needs a lot of thought. This is the rogue zone. So we're going to go ahead and look over 5 archetypes specifically that have great card art. So now the issue comes in is where these card arts are phenomenal, they're beautiful, elegant looking. You most likely will never see them because they're bad even in their own archetype. They don't do nothing for them. So these card arts just went to complete waste. So let's just hop right into it. 5 decks with great card art that went to waste. So I know what you're probably wondering. You're probably wondering, who died and made this guy the art critic, huh? Well, basically, whereas I didn't go to school for artwork, I don't have an official degree in art. You know, I would say I'm a pretty good artist myself. Not phenomenal or crazy or anything, but, you know, I can hold my own. A lot of the things you see in my videos, even in the background right now, were drawn by me, right? And I also have the ability to appreciate the art of others. For example, whereas I can draw, I will oftentimes commission artwork of others because I can appreciate the art that much. I believe if you love something so much, it's only fair for you to critique it. For example, one of the decks in this list, you're probably going to be thinking, dang, this guy brings up this deck, you know, in almost every discussion about something he hates or something like that. But the thing is, I love that deck. And I think that if you love something, it's okay to be critical about it, right? That's perfectly fine in my opinion. So yes, I'm not the be-all, end-all of opinions, but I have enough artistic knowledge to know good card art and to know when like a lot of thought went into our project and how much effort really truly the artist cared about this artwork. And unfortunately, where the artists themselves did phenomenal and really put their heart and soul into the artwork, the guys in card design just wasted it. Let's go. Starting with number 5, we have generators. So yes, like I said, it's crazy how I love generators so much, but I bring them up in almost every video like this, you know, basically criticizing them. Once again, it's because I love them so much, is why I'm so critical of them. You understand what I'm saying? Right. So generators, right? You know, a deck based around the Poetic Edda, meaning that the only current way we know how to go ahead and, you know, basically do research upon the Norse mythology and their gods. So, like I said in the previous video, Generator does have some pretty lackluster cards. And some of these cards have the best artwork ever. And some of these cards, for example, will be Naglfar, Dovellgos. Like, Dovellgos? Oh, look at Dovellgos, man. Dovellgos is like this crazy... It's not fully, completely, like, you know, cyberpunk or futuristic mecha, but this old Norse mecha, magical mecha. Like, for example, you can tell he's infused with some level of magic, some level of dwarven science to go ahead and create this monstrosity of a mecha. Look at his knees. He has crazy faces for knees, right? The Velagos, great card art. Naglfar is a crazy artwork. He has like these nice, a nice blue cadence to go ahead and like contrast his orange, his horns, the fire, the very essence of what Naglfar looks like. You can tell without giving any shadow of a doubt that this is a fire giant, right? If you look at this card and you ask somebody, what does it look like to you? You'd say a Balrog, right? You'd probably say a Balrog, most likely. But yeah, Balrogs are technically fire giants, right? So yeah, this is what good artwork is. If you can take something out of context and ask a person what this is, then the artwork is good. Same thing with like Dovellgos, right? Boss Bite, Hela, and Boss Room, for example, on Frodai. All the cards in Generator artwork is great, but these ones specifically went to complete waste. Why? No one should ever be playing Naglfar in Generators, I'm being honest with you. Dovelgus should never be played. Boss Room is okay, but it's very mediocre. Helar is in that same vein. Even Nidhogg. So even the good cards, they're just not enough, and they won't be played to a degree that they should be. Hence why these artworks, you'll never probably get to see them and truly appreciate them for what they are and how beautiful they really can be. For number 4, we have vendreads. So the reason why I love vendreads so much, I personally, as a person who draws or a person who appreciates art, I have a bit of a bias towards monsters or creature design, for example, right? I prefer creature design over something a little bit more like human based or based in reality. I prefer creature design, right? And vendread is like literally that sweet spot of things I love. Like, look at this card. Look at this card. This card looks like it was drawn by Kento Miura, like it's a berserk panel or something. The amount of detail and work, lighting, shading that went into this card art is phenomenal. And you probably won't get to see it as often as you should because it's 2023, who's playing vendreads, right? So which cards in particular other than that am I really into? So for cards like vendread Hound Horde, no, zombie doggo, not the zombie doggo. So yeah, vendread Hellhound, the guy that looks like, what's it called? That looks like Nemesis, you know, vendread Battlelord. All these artworks are just splendid, delicioso. Right? They went to waste because you're never gonna see them because they're in a bit of a, you know, mediocre deck. So that's rather unfortunate. On the next end, for number 3, we have Dream Mirrors. So now Dream Mirrors is really on like the sadder side of the spectrum because by design, Dream Mirrors had no chance. I'm gonna be very honest with you. Like, the deck's design is horrible. It actively puts itself in a position to never work. So that gimmick that Konami tried, it failed. It flopped, which is very sad because Dream Mirror has some really fantastic artwork. Like Neroi. Sorry, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't remember half these cards' names. Like I said, you know, I hardly see them, but I from time to time look at their artwork, and yeah, they're beautiful. You know, the Nerois, the doggo, the evil doggo. That's great creature design, phenomenal. The color transitions, as in, right? So in art, you know, there's these things called contrasting colors or complementary colors. Dreamer as an archetype does that greatly, and you can see that best in the monster I'm going to put on screen here now, where you can see where the greens and the satiation of the yellows, like a little cadence to it, right? Then immediately to the left, you're seeing like the abruptness of a purple, of an indigo. That's that's so good. Like, I'm probably geeking out about artwork. This is something I like to go ahead and express, right? I want to just go ahead and talk about some things that Konami really does indeed hit out of the park from time to time. From time again and time again, the artwork department is always hitting it out of the park. Sadly, I can't say the same for the balancing team. So now for the next archetype on this list, we have Ursartic. Ursartic as a archetype is kind of crazy because they have great cards. It's just that their gimmick holds them back. I mean, this deck literally has a card that says draw 7 cards, but because of their gimmick, they can't even really like fully expound upon that. Like, think about that. Alright, put this into perspective. Imagine if a deck like Tier Elements or Sprite had the ability to draw 7 cards. Like, think about that. That's crazy, right? But Ursartic has it, and it's still just not enough. That's crazy. So as it regards the artwork of Ursartic, oh my god. Like Ursartic Sceptron, Ursartic Slider, Ursartic Radiation, and all those great card arts just went to waste because this artwork, oh my, where do I really begin to appreciate this artwork? We have the monsters leaving what seems to be like their planet to defend it from, which I believe is the Drytron. That's their lore. The line art and the cadence of the effects around the artwork itself is just, oh my god. Like, Look at that. You can just see, like, they're in space, but they're, you know, they're polar bears. It's supposed to give off this feeling of being cold, and Slider does that so well. Because look at the ice particle effects. And as a person who draws, I can tell you, this is not something easy to encapsulate in a drawing, to go ahead and bring across in your drawing. It takes actual dedication, actual time frame to make it make sense, basically. And they did it, and it was well done. And for example, that is something I love about Ursartic Slider. As regards the monsters themselves, come on. They're giant bear mechazoids. Like, who wouldn't appreciate something like that, right? For example, Grand Chariot. Grand Chariot. The color palette, the way that they use the background to accentuate its RGB like colors without being lost in it. That's so good. That is so very good. Septirion is like same thing as Grand Chariot. The color palette is actually well chosen. The way that they translate this being a bear mecha, phenomenal. It's just so sad that this deck it's pretty just so sad that this deck probably will never, well, to be honest with you, who knows what the future holds, but currently as we're speaking, we won't be able to go ahead and fully appreciate this artwork. So up for the next archetype on this list, Red Eyes. I'm sorry, Joey, but
you're a third-rate duelist with a fourth-rate deck.
And this deck genuinely does have some very good card art. Like, look at this! Archfiend Black Skull Dragon is, I mean, look at this card. It has a unique silhouette, the choice of colors, the gradient lighting. Oh, the line art, fantastic. And how many times have you seen this card summoned? I'm gonna be honest with you, probably in the old format it was probably summoned a lot of times. I started my YuGiOh journey pretty late, just so you know. But yeah, Meteor Black Comet Dragon. Beautiful. Red Eyes, that dragon itself, like its many iterations of its card art. Specifically, the one where it's standing on its hind legs and it's roaring, basically. That's the best art to me. So yeah, that was 5 archetypes I believe have phenomenal artwork, but I see the artwork much often due to the lack of playability on the competitive side. Maybe for persons in casual, you get to see these artworks a lot, and I envy you for that. I'm gonna be very honest. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments if I missed any artwork specifically for the archetypes, or maybe in a future video you'd like me to go ahead and cover more archetypes with great card artwork, or maybe even it's a case where you want me to go over some good archetypes with bad card artwork. With that being said, it's the Rogue Man. Please keep safe. Love ya. Appreciate ya. Let's get it. We out.